Welcome to the virtual lab. You are going to be using this program to demonstrate how to do a successive dilution. So the first thing that you need to know is how to use this basic lab setup. Okay, if you watch this introductory video here, which is linked on the page, they go through with you the real basics of how to use this program. I will do it very, very quickly with you, and it is very, very, very simple. Okay, so you've got over here your stock room. This is all of the things that are available to you to complete this particular practical. This stock room is different depending on which virtual prac has been set up. So you've got some distilled water, you've got some sodium hydroxide, and you've got some hydrochloric acid. If you click on glassware, it tells you all the different types of glassware that you've got. This is what we call a conical flask. Okay, so if I add 250 ml conical flask. First thing you need to know is that you can rename that if you want to by right-clicking and seeing rename. So maybe I'm going to call that flask 1, for example, and I'm going to rename. This tells you information about what's in the flask, which at the moment is nothing. If I come back to my stock room, come back to my solutions, maybe I want to add some sodium hydroxide. If I want to add that sodium hydroxide into my empty flask, I just move it on top. It's asking me now how much I want to add. So let's say I want to add 50 milliliters and I want to pour it in. Okay, done. I can now get rid of the stock NaOH solution so that I don't get confused by what I'm working with and what my stock solution is. So again, I just right click and I say remove and it puts it back into your stock, okay? So flask 1, I've now got some more information about it. It tells me the hydrogen ion concentration, the hydroxide ion concentration, and the sodium ion concentration, and it gives me a pH. Come back to my stock room, I've got acid to play with. I've got a Bunsen burner and a scale, which I don't think we're going to need, okay? To actually work out what you need to do, you need to click up here on Method of Successive Dilutions. So it gives you an objective, it gives you a little bit of background information, and then it gives you your procedure. So let's look at a series of half dilutions. With this virtual lab, fill 5 flasks with a constant amount of water. For simplicity, we're going to use 20 mils, but any amount will do. So it's telling you the first step is to go and get 5 flasks, add them onto your workbench, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I would then go and name them, flasks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's asking you to put an equal amount of distilled water into each of them. So just as I demonstrated with putting your NaOH into flask 1, you're going to put equal amounts of distilled water into each of those 5 flasks. Okay, so that's your first step here. And it's letting you know that you can right-click and rename them. Makes it a little bit easier. Now add the same amount of stock, 1 molar HCl, to the first flask. So you're going to add 20 mils. And note the concentration of H3O plus has been diluted by half. Okay, so what that's saying is I've got 20 mils of water in this flask. I'm going to add 20 mils of hydrochloric acid into that flask. And when you click on the flask and it gives you information, it wants you to be noting down the hydrogen ion concentration, because the point is to be looking at what happens to that hydrogen ion concentration as we do successive dilutions. So it continues on to give you more steps in the method by taking 20 mils into the second flask. So you're taking 20 mils from your first flask and adding it to the second flask. Okay, this is what it means by successive dilutions. Starting off with one given concentration and diluting that solution by the same scale each time. Okay, so hopefully the methodology is clear and you understand what you need to be doing. If you don't, pop into a Google Meet and talk to your teacher.